screen around. Hello. And let's get to demonstrating a little bit here. Can you see that okay, Barb?
Yes. If you want the rest, you could tilt it a hair down if you need the whole mat on, but I think it's fine actually. Yeah, that's
Like
good.
that? Okay, good. The first thing I want to do is just quickly suggest that when you're doing your cups, first establish at home that a cup measure that you're using is actually going to produce a cup, 8 ounces of water. I say this because ultimately you're going to have a lot less pain if you know that you have accurate measuring cups. So can you see this is 8 ounces? You can look at it and you can see it's slightly less than the marks, but I want to use 8 ounces plus another quarter cup. So I'm going to want 10 ounces of water, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in this cup because I think it'll bear it. But that 10 ounces of water I need for our pretzels, I've just scaled. And you could see yourself that the measuring cup wasn't quite accurate, and so scaling it is a good way to go. Now, what I don't know is what the temperature of that water is. So let's be sure we know. What do we remember? We don't want it 140, and 100 would be nice, but my kitchen is quite chilly. So it's room temperature water, which is 72 degrees. Can you see that on my?
Yeah.
No, okay, good. You're going to take that temperature just to be sure for your own sanity that you're not going to kill the yeast. Now back to measuring cups, I just want to say this is William Sonoma's idea of a dry measuring cup. But it's a 1 cup measure with a spout. And that's where you really want to be sure if you use this for liquids, you would want to be sure and scale it to be sure you know what it is. And even if it was flour, you'd want to do that too, because you're not sure whether it's really a liquid cup or a dry cup and what it will produce. So now what we can do is we're going to add to the water. I'm going to zero out my bowl. Can you all see that that's all zero? I don't know how much you can see. Barb, help me out.
No, it's pretty hard to see that, but you're small on my screen.
Okay.
I mean, I can't see the actual number, but I could see the whole setup.
We'll do our best, but it says 0 now. I've zeroed the bowl and the water, and now I know that I need 1 package of yeast, which is 7 grams. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then I'm going to zero that out as well. I know the yeast won't die because, oh, there's the rest of the yeast. It won't die because the water's not too hot. Now I know I need oil, but I'm going to go ahead and put some flour in first. So zeroing this out, I know that I need 3 cups of flour and 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Rather than put the salt right on top of the flour, I'm going to go ahead and measure this out and put it in the bottom of my flour cup for the moment. Okay. Will it hurt the yeast? No. I could go ahead and put it in there, but I always like to buffer it a little bit with some flour. So I'm at 0. I'm going to go ahead and put. This is a whole white wheat flour. And just to give you a view of what that's like compared to a bread flour, I'm going to put a little bit on my lid here and just bring it where you can see it, I hope. Is the light okay to see that?
Mm-hmm.
You can see that the whole wheat is so pale because it's a white wheat that it's just really close to the bread flour in appearance. And that's helpful to the person who just really does not like the darkness of a red wheat flour. So now I have 4.25 ounces of flour in there. I'm going to go ahead and add another cup bread flour with the whole white wheat. That gives me 9.1 ounces, and I know that I would like to have 12 ounces of flour for this to start with, okay? That's already 13, so just take a tiny tad bit off the top, bring it down to 12.75. Now just to stir this up, we've got the salt, we've got the yeast, we've got the flour and the water. I need to go ahead and add my oil. And I have all of my pretzel ingredients weighed and in the bowl. Now you can use a regular bamboo wooden spoon. I've gotten used to using one of these whisks that they call a bread whisk. King Arthur Baking Company sells these. I'm sure that your local kitchen store may too. But it grabs the flour and it moves it in the bowl and helps you to turn it, which is always a great asset. Eventually, of course, you're going to get to the point where you want to actually knead it by hand. And that's really the pleasure of bread baking. So you can see it's a little sticky, but it's firm. And that'll allow me to use about a half a cup of flour to knead this until it's complete. If you don't know how to knead, let me just quickly show you the rudiments of that. I usually just lightly dust the surface with flour. I prefer to knead in my bowl. You're going to push, fold, push, fold. If you keep it coated with flour until the dough begins to become non-sticky, you'll be a little happier with the process, meaning your hands won't get quite so sticky. Again, you can sprinkle a little more on there and you knead that dough roughly 5 minutes and you'll just feel it change under your hands. The key to this is you want the dough to not be wet. You don't want it to be too sticky for a pretzel because you have to be able to handle that dough without it just turning into a mass of wet dough. If I were making rolls or some other tender yeast product, I like to keep the dough just a little bit sticky. But with a pretzel, I want a firm dough. So with that said, I'm going to bring this out to you. And I know that I have 27 ounces of dough here. I weighed it after I made it. And that's important when you're working with dough and you want an even turnout on your product that's roughly the same size. So I'm going to go ahead. I chilled this dough down, which makes it a little better to handle. I'm still going to take a small amount of flour, just a small amount, and just kind of coat my surface just barely with it. There we go. You really don't want a lot of flour loose on the surface of any dough that you're shaping because it just bakes on the surface. So to divide this evenly, the best way I can describe it is you kind of make a log out of it, and then we're going to want to divide it into, let's say we do 8 pieces would give us large pretzels. So you divide this in half, you can scale that half. It should be right at 13 ounces. It's 14. Let's see if this one's even close. A little bit smaller. Wouldn't you know it? We'll just take a little snitch off of that one. Then you're going to divide it again in half. And see how close you are again between your pieces. That's 7.5, 6.5, very close to 7.5. Okay, so these two are littler. And we're just going to take, again, that small amount off the side. So now we want 8 large pretzels. By large, it's going to look about this size. We would divide each one of these in half again. Now this dough is really rested. Okay, again, it was raised in the refrigerator, punched, and then just left to rest. You see how flat it is? That's good, because a pretzel, you want the piece of dough to be elongated. So don't mess with the gluten when it's already going in the right direction. Does that make sense to you all? So you wouldn't form it into a ball and then try to lengthen it out, because you would end up with having to work twice as hard. So if you line them up in the order you're going to shape them in, that can also be useful to you. So I'm going to start here. If this one does not roll out very well for me, then I'm going to go let it rest again before I try to shape it. You can see that's really elongating nicely. Again, that's what a hard wheat flour will do for you. Plenty of kneading and then letting the dough rest. So see, the length is about, I would just call that, I can measure it on here, about 24 inches, 2 feet long. When I shape a pretzel, then you're gonna let that rest one more time so it doesn't spring back on you, and go to the next one in line. And see if you can get it to go ahead and elongate out. Now, again, this dough could have more sugar in it. It could be a sweet dough, like you see them at the airport sometimes. They have a cinnamon and sugar variety. You could even add something fun to it, like raisins, cinnamon, roll it in cinnamon, and go from there. So this dough is really fun to work with. Again, it was a pretty firm dough after I kneaded it. And then by letting it rest in the refrigerator, it's just, you see, it's just elongating the way you need it to. Stretch, stretch, stretch.
Charlene, I mean, sorry, not Charlene, Sharon, I just wanted to let you know we're at
5 minutes.
7:55. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, let me finish. I'll shape one up for us. You look at it like it's a big U shape or smile. Cross it close to the ends, twist it once, and lay it down. These pieces that are on top need to be underneath on the cookie sheet, though. That's really important, or they'll pop up as they bake. So again, smiley faced, twist at the top, twist one more, lay over the bottom. And that's your basic pretzel. Once it's been placed on the cookie sheet, it's risen maybe 20 minutes so it can get puffed a little bit. Let me move this over here where you can see it. You're going to create an egg wash, and that's just a whole egg whisked with a tablespoon of water and brushed on the surface. Now, Barb, I'm going to ask people if they have a question to go ahead and be submitting them, and I'm going to go ahead and just brush this on. And just go from there. You're going to seed the top with either seeds or salt or some combination after you've brushed your egg wash on there, providing you have a brush to brush with, which I left in the drawer somewhere. So let me just show you. You're just going to lightly cover that. You really don't want puddles of egg wash, okay? Otherwise it fries on the bottom. Here's some of the everything bagel mixture that I like to use. You can create your own. Like I said, it's on the PowerPoint, or you can use a coarse salt. Now you see how these are already starting to stick up? That's why it's so important to lay them on the bottom. Are there some questions, Barb, that we can handle?
I do not see any. Does anybody have any questions? You want to throw them in the chat? While you're
can't be that good at this. Huh?
I actually wanted to know, so let's clarify, just so everybody out there knows, we will be, when I email everybody tomorrow with the feedback, we will be passing out, or including in the email, the bread with a twist lesson guide and the recipe, the baking food safety document, and then there'll also be a YouTube link for how to. But I also wanted to know, with all, somebody had asked while you were busy working, if we would be able to, if they could see the PowerPoint. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you'd share it as a PDF, that'd be best. Probably.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share that. And I see a boiling water dip. That's right. Before you would apply the egg wash, the boiling water step is in the recipe. You basically bring 6 cups of water and about 6 tablespoons of soda to a boil. And then you dip these pretzel pieces right here. You're just going to drop that into the boiling water and flip it. You 10 seconds on a side, and then pull them out and let them drain. It's in the video that's on our website, how to do that step as well. I was limited for space and did not show you tonight, but it is in the actual video on our website. That
Okay,
gives it an extra chew.
Another question here. How long do you let it at room temperature to puff up?
Right now, the way these are, my room temperature is 72 degrees, and you could let those rise covered for about 20 minutes. I just say relax. And if you could put them in a warmer environment, it would be better. I would maybe put a little bit of heat in my oven, turn the oven off. You don't want your oven to be any more than 100 degrees. And just let them sit in there for about 20 minutes, again, just to let the yeast kind of recover from the shaping. You're never going to let them get doubled in size, and there's a reason for that. If you're going to do the boiling water wash, you don't want the pretzels to be doubled in size, or they become too easy to cut. They pull apart too much. So use your stronger flour, like a bread flour or a high protein all-purpose. Make your dough not too tender. You want it to be nice and elastic and fairly firm to the touch. And then let it rest. Even overnight in the refrigerator, you'll get this much easier dough to work with because the gluten strands will have relaxed. And then once you get that, don't knead those pieces of dough. You don't go back and work them. You just stretch them out and shape. Then let them raise about 20 minutes, and you'll be ready to boil them in the bath or egg wash them and bake them if you don't want to do the boiling step.
Okay. I have another question. How long is this recipe from start to finish, including the time to let it rise?
If you do a quick rise, meaning you used warm water, not the refrigerator step, you would have pretzels within an hour and 10 minutes. If you use the overnight refrigerated dough, and it takes you roughly 10 minutes to make the dough, maybe 15 if you haven't done it before, to knead the dough and get it all finished. You put it in a bag and put it in the refrigerator. And the next day you take it out and divide it and shape it like I did just now for you. That would be another 15 minutes. Boil in the water after. Yeah, there's a good hour and 20 minutes probably by the time you bake it.
Okay. I think I've covered all the questions. You have some comments. It was a very nice demo and a wealth of information, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I agree that it's a lot. I mean, when you were showing the slides, so everyone just know that you'll have access to see all of the slides, because there was a lot of good information I would like to relook at too.
Well, we invite you to, and by all means, come to homebaking.org. You've got everything from start to finish on there. If you go to this under Learn, you'll find Bake for Family Fun. It has a lot of really good aids to you to teach you different steps or different pieces of the information that I shared tonight. But you're welcome to the PowerPoint. And then the video itself on how to make the pretzels is on our website. So thank you.
Yeah, and for anyone, if you care to share, you can put it on social media if you bake them and what your experience was. I'd love to see. I'd love to hear about it.
And we'd love to hear how it went for you.
Absolutely, yes.
We're going to send a copy of Baking with Friends to Barb. It'll be in the Carey Public Library for you. And I hope you'll access it and come back to us, Barb. Let us know how things are going.
Absolutely. Well, Sharon, it was an absolute pleasure. I think this was so interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm sure that others did too. I have great speakers, so knowledgeable. Everyone's impressed with your knowledge, very interesting, all the good things in the comments. So I would agree.
Thank you all.
Happy
All
baking.
right. Yeah, happy baking. Everyone
You-
have a good night.
You too.
Anything else that you wanted to say, Sharon? Are we good?
Just that I never really said any of the history. It's on the Bread with a Twist lesson plan is a whole history about pretzels, but you understand that pretzels are a symbol of blessing. So our blessing to you is this pretzel lesson, and we hope that you'll have a wonderful November and a great Thanksgiving season. We really wish you well and stay safe. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Same to you, Sharon. Take care. Take care, Charlene. And have a good night, everybody.
Thanks now. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.